I think this comment is completely fair, and these feelings are completely valid, and I've been there. When I started going through my program to become a somatic sex and intimacy coach, and the decision I made to specialize in trauma when mine was coming up, it was really interesting because for me, what kind of happened was my sexual awakening and my spiritual awakening happened side by side with each other. For those of you that don't know, I was raised in the Catholic school system before I got pulled out to be in the public school system. And so it was almost the best way that I can describe it was if you've ever had like two necklaces that just like they bundle and they knot, and it's just like, oh my gosh, how do I even get this apart, right? Because there was so much of an overlap that was happening in all of the conditioning. And I just remember my system being in a complete and total freeze response. And I think that's where a lot of people are right now. And I think that it's also very intentional from the people benefiting from the current systems and structures, right? It is a lot harder to get motivated to get up and move and do something when you're feeling so paralyzed and so bogged down with kind of the horrors of the reality that we are watching unfold with us right now, right? And this happened for me about 5 years ago when I was going through my program, and I couldn't unsee it. Like everything was so intertwined, and as I started picking it apart and pulling things apart, right, I was like, it touches everything. Like it literally touches everything. All of the conditioning is just stacked on top of each other, and I don't even know how to function in reality and in society right now because of how much of this is just bullshit that isn't even ours, right? And so I think that's where the deconstruction work becomes so powerful, right? Is women that are sexually empowered, right? Women that are emotionally empowered and going through and operating from life in emotional intelligence and have nervous system regulation cannot be controlled and they cannot be hijacked, right? I kind of spoke in one of my videos that like, I'm not shocked, right? Because I've already moved through that. Unfortunately, this is the reality and this is what we have to deconstruct, but I'm not shocked and I'm not paralyzed, right? I am motivated to move through this to create something better. And I think it's very intentional, the emotional overwhelm and flooding of the nervous systems to get people to shut down, to get people to go, it literally touches everything. There's nothing I can do, so I might as well not try, right? And that is not what we are going to do. And I think, to be sexually empowered does not necessarily mean that you have to be having a regular intimacy lifestyle right now. It's funny looking back on it, and it was just so unbelievably frustrating at the time. But when I was going through my program to become a somatic sex coach, I started with like so much empowerment and being like, oh my gosh, the world needs this. I'm like so excited. Like we've got to break through the conditioning, right? And then my trauma surfaced, and looking at things from like all of the religious programming and religious dogma that I had to actually take a step back. And when I was no longer with the partner that I was with at the time, I actually chose celibacy for a while, because when my trauma came up and my sexual assault and my religious programming I was working through that, I just remember going, I don't even know what I believe anymore. Like, I don't even know, like, what of this is mine and what beliefs have been taught to me. Does that make sense? And I just had to start questioning everything. And in order to do that, I had to take a step back and go, again, that self-intimacy journey, and going, while I'm working through this deconstruction work, what was taught to me, what was force-fed to me, what was conditioned into my system, what was fear-mongered to make me play small and to be fearful and paralyzed and overwhelmed, and what do I want to believe? What do I choose to believe in this moment? And actually having to take a step back and get to know myself and what I believed and what I wanted and what I felt comfortable and safe with, and then being able to advocate that for myself. And so it wasn't just like this sprint into like, woo, sexual empowerment, I'm having like the best time of my life and the best experiences of my life, right? Like it was like, oh, I actually need to slow down and see like, where am I performing? Where am I masking? Where am I self-abandoning by going, I'm not advocating for myself. This isn't actually a yes for me, right? I talk a lot about the self-abandonment when it comes to faking the big O's, right? And how much that we do that to either satisfy a partner or because we're too fearful of being like, hey, can we try something different? I'm not really enjoying this, right? And all of the ways that showed up. And it was interesting because when Felon 47 first got elected, I was actually in the middle of kind of meeting a new guy and kind of going through the song and dance of that. And we had the whole her body, my choice narrative being parrot squawked all over the internet. And I had to cancel a first date. And I was like, this is nothing personal when it comes to you, but I genuinely am feeling so unsafe right now. And for a first date, I don't feel comfortable. Like, I am feeling so unbelievably in distress with this notion that like my choice would be taken away from me. And I had to sit with that. And I was very honest about advocating that with the person that was pursuing me. And he was really great about it. And it gave like a lot of green flags to move forward, right? And that's sometimes how you know the green flags and the red flags is being able to advocate for yourself and being able to say, my nervous system's not feeling safe right now. Can we change something? Can you help accommodate me, right? In what ways can we create that co-regulation of nervous system safety to be able to move forward, right? If this person had been like, I'm so offended that you would ever think like that I would do that and and made it about him, I would have been like, red flag, right? There's no reason for me to continue to pursue this. There's no reason for me to move forward with this. Instead, I was met with, because he asked what I needed, right? And being like, hey, it's totally fine that we reschedule the date. I am so sorry that is what you are feeling right now. It is so inappropriate. I'm mad and grieving for and with you. And that is not something that you need to worry about with me. And I totally understand and respect the fact that you need to cancel and reschedule our first date. And that's one of the ways that we move through this deconstruction, right? Is if I hadn't had so much time deconstructing and working through this and advocating for myself and going, what does my body need in this present moment, right? I don't think I would have been able to do that. And so it's not always about the act itself, right? It's sometimes about getting to know yourself and allowing those ways to support your nervous system even further so that we can start to feel safe. So that when the time comes that you do feel safe to engage with that, it does get to be a pleasurable and joyful experience. And it does get to be, about you and whoever you're sharing that experience with, right? And there's safety that gets built into that. I know that one of the things that is such a yes for me is when men actually understand the true meaning of consent and they act on that, right? And that's a big thing that with the kind of misogyny, patriarchal society that we're in right now is that's really not a thing. It's not about women's pleasure. It's not about women's nervous systems feeling safe. It's about being able to perform to the male standards. And that's something that we're deconstructing. And if deconstructing that means that you take some time to be celibate and take some time to work through self-intimacy and not worrying about a partner, that's totally fair and that's totally valid.